I, Piyush Bhatia, along with Nakeeb Shiraz, will be your hosts for the rest of the day. We had a delightful morning session where Mayur sir, Sandeep sir, and Noel sir talked about the latest trends in managing supply chains. We thank you again for their time. Now, we would move on to the paper presentations. We have three presenters with us today. The first paper, titled Impact of Predictive Maintenance Using IoT, is written by Dr. Priyanka Lal and Dr. Shilpa Narayan. Both of them are associate professors of operations at the Wellington Institute of Management Development and Research, Mumbai. We welcome them on the dais to present their paper.
Very good afternoon to all of you, and thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to present the paper here. My colleague, Dr. Shilpa, she is not available because of personal reason. We have 15 minutes for presentation, but I'm going to wind it up pretty soon. I'm sure about it. I'd say this is not exactly a research paper presentation per se, but this is more like a study which we did, and my all senior faculty colleagues who are sitting and the corporate people who present out here, we're really looking forward for your inputs. More than Q&A is where can we make this more as an impactful research presentation. So I'll be starting with it, and before that, a short introduction of myself. I am Dr. Priyanka Lal, and I did my post-graduation in industrial engineering from NITI in year 2002. Post that, 14 years of corporate experience, and then corporate was too tough to start it handling the moment I started moving up in the organization. So then I shifted to education, assuming that it's much better in terms of quality, but the assumption is failed. And now I'm a full-time faculty with Wellington Institute of Management. Shilpa, similar to mine, she also has 14 years of work experience in corporate. She's more into pharma sector, and she was more of an HR background. I am pretty much with FMCG sector and more with operations supply chain background. I think together we will make a good combination with Industry 5.0 coming in. That's what our plan was. Okay, so it's a real case study sort of stuff which we did with one of the elevator company, a known elevator company. And we did this during the time when our student goes for their SITs, and that is the time only when we get, to spend our hours into the market. So we are going to talk about the impact of predictive maintenance, especially on the performance indicators of elevator operations. So we will just going to show you a data analysis. I'm sure my all faculty colleagues will look at it and say, that's exactly not a research paper. So that's mostly where we are really looking forward for your inputs in terms of how to really, shape it up in more impactful manner. Background of the study, it's a known elevator company with which we are associated with. We are associated with, so we stopped in between. And as we know that elevator industry is obviously booming up with lots of commercial, industrial, and especially government impact of government push in terms of having good infrastructure support which is coming in. Elevators demand is continuously increasing, and the small players, especially in service and maintenance, is giving really a lot of pressure in terms of the companies to work at par with respect to the cost and speed of the delivered services. So that's where the importance comes in, that we want to see that when a company has invested a lot of money, especially when a technology comes in the role of having a predictive maintenance in place, how is that really impacting the performance indicator of an elevator industry? And we did this with the company. So the company has recently, or it's not now recently, but they have implemented somewhere in end of November the predictive maintenance, the technology altogether of ITs, the digitally enabled technology, which help them in presenting or in preparing for the predictive maintenance sort of stuff. Research methodology, the study was conducted for a period of 6 months. We have taken a data for 4 types of elevators, which are commercial, industrial, government, institution and residential. And it was basically 40 elevators put together. The data was on monthly basis for them, is what we have collected. Primary data also we collected, quantitative, qualitative, it's all primary data. And then we were in touch with their technical operations center, basically the one which manages this, this newly upcoming predictive maintenance software which they have implemented. Observations, if I look at it, this is more talking about the scenario in which we entered to the organization and we felt the organization was. The organization has implemented a closed loop maintenance system. It is pretty much highlighting the problem as well as suggesting the solution for the same. They were giving the real-time data with the OTA functionality to do analytics and all. And then obviously artificial intelligence and big data, which is really making an impact. They are using JE Predicts technology. If you're aware about it, that's the technology which is helping in terms of getting that real-time data into their system and then performing analysis with respect to that. Okay, so then along with that, there's an application-based stuff, okay, which is more giving that insights to the passenger and to the customer about what is the recent or what is the current way in which your elevator is functioning. What is the health of your elevator? And all that is being given to and accessible to. There's an action board application which gives you an real data anytime, anywhere. You can access it on your mobile, you can access it wherever you are. And you can look at the health, the operation efficiency of your elevator system. So this is the background with which we entered to the organization and we looked at it. We have done 4 types of study on that elevator post their implementation of predictive maintenance. We looked at it, and first is obviously what is the impact after predictive maintenance, the technology which they have implemented on their breakdown hours. Obviously, it has to be positive. We just measured the way it has really come up with. So if you look at the data out here, what has been done is you look at the timeline when the predictive maintenance has been implemented, but it was somewhere end of November, where you can see the timeline, and you can see a drastic reduction in terms of their breakdown hours. It was as good as 0, which is what really isn't about. So the percentage improvement was, as I said, 95%. That is what the company has really achieved with respect to. You can see for all 4 types of elevators which are there. I would welcome all Q&A if it is coming in your mind, maybe at the time of presentation itself, because so any questions till now? If there in terms of...
Is that downtime in a month? Average downtime in a month?
Yes, that's the month. Downtime. Right, that's a monthly data.
For the sample population?
Yes, for the sample population, absolutely.
Madam, when you are talking about predictive maintenance, a lift will have 2 parts.
Yes.
There will be a unit which is installed at the top, in which you have a motor, you have a gearbox, and then you have the wire rope grab, and then you have the cage, right? So, as a matter of fact, when you talk about predictive maintenance, it means you are trying to find out or measure or monitor the conditions. So, in case of motor, you measure the temperature of the bearings. In case of the gearbox, you measure the temperature of the bearings and condition of the rope, and also the condition of those slides on which the wheels and other things are going, and also the electrical part or the electronic part where the doors are opening and closing, and the electronic part where the automatic system works. So when we talk about predictive maintenance, is there any automatic monitors which are picking up the data in terms of temperature, in terms of, only temperatures you can pick up. That's the only thing which you can pick up, or vibrations you can pick up. So what were the system and to what extent you have gone in finding out the condition so that you will know that a breakdown is coming, and then stop this one and do the corrective action.
So exactly, I think you told about it. I think you actually answered. So We have done that, and that's the way it's been implemented as those sensors which are there. That's the way the data has been picked up. So it was about the way the condition of the road, the time of usage, and the number of usage which has been done, the deterioration which is happening in the motor efficiency, the rotation, all that is being captured with the help of those sensors and the data points, through which it has been then gone for this, what we say OTA, which is over the air, and then the analytics which is being performed is giving you a report about how is the performance happening. And I think my fourth type of analysis will show you that, especially for the spare parts. Moving forward is the second, which is more of preventive maintenance timing, which is with respect to post your predictive maintenance implementation. How is your preventive maintenance timing is doing? So when we looked at it, we found that on an average when it was 3.5 before implementing, it has drastically reduced to 1 hour. The reason is being, obviously, data is helping you out. It is telling you when to schedule a preventive maintenance, because now after this particular technology, it is not required for you to have a timetable with you in terms of when do you want it, because your reports are telling you as when you should schedule a maintenance for which particular part or which particular system of the elevator. So that's why the focus has been shifted. It's been not to the overall, but specific to the problem which you can see from the analysis is what going to be a danger for you. So that has been drastically reduced.
Madam, is it proper to call it preventive maintenance? Because preventive maintenance is nothing else but based on timetable. Now, the moment you say that it is not a preventive maintenance, it is the corrective action or corrective maintenance which you are doing based on the data which you have picked up while the machine was in operation. And when you find that it is crossing those limits, which are the safe limits or could endanger in terms of vibration, in terms of temperature, and in terms of conditions which are going beyond normal. So then this is a corrective stop or a corrective maintenance rather than a preventive. Preventive maintenance will always have a time frame.
So mostly the way we call it preventive, and obviously but we call it preventive because predicting that this thing will go wrong, and before it goes wrong, we try to prevent it. And thus that during that maintenance we try to take care of. That the machine or the elevator should not have a fault because of this. It should not stop because of that. So that has been prevented, and that's why I think we call it as a preventive maintenance into this.
Yeah, it is slightly different from the universal definition of preventive. Yes.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Moving to the next, so this is the second data analysis point. You will always see a government graph doing pretty well compared to the other three graphs for obvious reasons. So the government, the moment the elevator is back down, you will always see the immediate attention of the company to work on it. So their numbers were always better. If you look at the breakdown, also the government was really doing well. Their elevators were doing well because the immediate attention was given to them. Here also the preventive maintenance were always taken much number of hours, much higher than the other properties to really take care of the government institution pretty well. Third is more with respect to the spare parts availability. And
But one more question.
yeah, sure.
Are you taking up the data on continuous basis or on some time frame? Once in a week, once in a day, once in an hour, or it is continuously being monitored, continuously being picked up?
So we took data only on a monthly basis.
Even the data of the condition, you were doing it on monthly basis?
No, this was all coming out from that software. So the software was any
So it was the real-time data
Yes.
was being picked up on 24/7.
Yes, sir, yes, absolutely right.
Means the temperatures were recorded on 24-hour basis.
Yes.
The vibration recorded on 24-hour basis.
True, sir. Absolutely.
And all the conditions. All right.
So that was all on machine, all IoT centers and technologies. So it was very precise.
I don't want to jump to the slides, but I just want to ask, were you able to identify what systems were failing based on, application type, a residential elevator, probably the doors might be failing? Or were you able to identify that these are your problem areas for this application?
means
Could you share a little more thoughts on that maybe?
No, I think I'm not covered this point in the presentation, but I think you're talking about the reasons for which the failure.
Failure mode, yeah.
Maybe a government institution has a typical one or.
Correct. Maybe overloading is the reason why government lifts are failing.
Yes.
Residential is failing probably because doors always were stopped manually.
As a matter of fact, those areas where the interface with the people is high,
Correct.
those will be the one which will fail
Were
faster.
you established?
Yes.
Right, like the switches where the people are operating.
Correct.
I mean, we can see even on our own floor, वो नीचे वाला switch काम नहीं करता है, तो मतलब आप wait कर रहे हैं कि कभी न कभी लिफ्ट रुकेगी तो नीचे जाएंगे.
No, there is a habit now.
And also those things which are mounted at the top, unless the lubrication or something else fails, because they are isolated, there is no human interference. So chances of their failure will be much less. They will be so steadily designed. But where human interface is there or operational errors are possible, in those cases the chances of failure will be more.
Yeah, true, absolutely right, sir. But if I recall correctly, and I think that's data absolutely you can look at it, but I really did not found any pattern with respect to, let's say, residential being there and government. But mostly that the reasons probably being failure was coming up more like, overloadings. Or those were one of the major reasons for the lifts to get failed. And along with that, the spare parts being not available on time, but that was more number of breakdown hours which were there. So, but not with respect to the properties we find something.
Madam, I am a bit surprised that the overloading was the reason because most of the time the lifts have got a system.
Yes.
If it is overloaded, it will not move.
True, sir. True.
Then how does it cause problem?
No, but that's where if that system really works well, as in mostly by the time it gives you an intimation, it's sometimes failed. It's already been failed by that time. So but you rightly said it means that system might not be working perfectly. But we found that as one of the reasons for the lifts to get failed. The reason for the breakdown to happen. So that was one of the reasons. Sir, any question?
No, ma'am, continue.
So basically with respect to the spare parts availability, obviously with respect to the moment it's a predictive maintenance, the spare part inventory management was much better being done. Because the prediction might happen already in terms of what parts you will require. And thus if you look at the data points which talked about, initially before the implementation, the availability was around 70-75% on some of the cases for the spare part, which has actually improved drastically the moment the predictive maintenance was in place. Because it was giving a real insights in terms of which type of spare parts you will need in terms of future, And thus, if you look at the graph or the diagram above, it was an automatic generation of the requirement that goes to the warehouse then, and then the warehouse places an order, and it then arrives on time. So that really helped company in terms of ensuring the better inventory management for their spare parts system. The last analysis was more with respect to the suppliers and the spare part quality.
Ma'am, can I, but this company must have been in this business for quite some time now.
True.
Or this is a new company.
No, sir, it's pretty much there.
Right. So if they are pretty much there, they will be having a record as to what are the general things which are failing in this particular type of design. What are the elements or what are the areas in which the failures take place? Which are the weak links?
Failure states.
Yes. Which is the failure mode?
Right.
And which are the items which are normally more which fail more often?
True.
So how does this study help? Because that must be with their experience they will be knowing कि जब भी हम जाते हैं ये वाली चीज फेल होती है ये स्पेयर पार्ट लेके जाओ.
Right. No, sir. This is more of spare part availability in the warehouse itself. Asking from supplier to the warehouse. So that is there, but predicting that only this much or that particular spare part is what I'm going to need is something which is, obviously being improved once the predictive maintenance was there in place. So that is the reason of it. On the supplier and the spare part quality, if you look at the graph, basically for any of the supplier, it gives the data with respect to the way or the consumption rate which has happened. So it's like 30% time, spare consumption rate, it's like 30%, 40%. So for supplier D, if you look at, the consumption rates are pretty high for their spare parts. It means the quality of their spare parts is much low. You can feel that compared to the other suppliers, because the consumption of the spare part is actually pretty fast. So that idea, at least these data will help you in terms of analyzing that as well. That which supplier is perfectly, is doing better versus to whom, and also which spare part is doing better. It's just giving a graph, but there were multiple graphs with respect to this. There were huge amount of data, and actually somewhere we were also not sure as what really data, but I think there's some good questions because of which we can go back and really analyze those points.
But for any item which is coming inside the plant,
Yes, sir.
normally at the receiving section itself,
Yeah.
we first, before we accept it, we get the quality checked,
Yes.
and then we put it into application.
Right.
Because this is a lift. If the part fails, when the lift is in operation, it could indicate the life of a lot of people. So we cannot afford to have this type of variation in the quality of the parts. It could be at the cost of various lives. So there will be certified suppliers, the regular suppliers, and if we can find a variation in the quality, it means the chances of failure of this and the resultant death in these type of hits could be uncontrollable.
True. Now, coming to this, sir, this is more like how fast your spare part is getting used. So it's not failed, but it's getting consumed faster. With respect to its working performance. So it means that is what it is being shown, but it is not a failure, but it will reach to a failure much faster. That is what it's showing.
What you are saying is that these are the parts which are failing more often. Is that right?
So I'm saying between supplier to supplier, sir, if you look at a comparison, there are few suppliers whose parts consumption rate is much higher compared to others. It means that quality is not to that standard of the other, so that the consumption of this part is happening faster. So that is the reason you can always compare it. It's likely that the quality deterioration or the quality of the product will supplier D will supply may not do at par with the other suppliers. So there maybe you need to drop the supplier or you need to renegotiate them with respect to the quality.
And what is the time spent? It is about 4 or 5 years.
So this data, sir, is what just for 7 months, 8 months.
7 months time, the lift is being exposed to poor quality of spare parts.
I say.
Because people are going up and down.
Sir. But it will be just that this is going to be, you have to replace them faster. You have to replace them faster.
Is it a quality or the consumption?
So it's a consumption.
Right. So then quality is not an issue.
We are saying that if the consumption is faster, it means there's a problem with the quality.
There will be, these are coming from the OEM,
Yes.
right? So you are not going to buy it from the market.
Yeah.
You are going to go to the original equipment manufacturer.
Right.
And the original equipment manufacturer will have some parts which are supplied to him by this certified supplier,
True. Absolutely.
right? And only then he is assembling this. So now where this variety of suppliers come in?
So it is like between supplier to supplier comparison, because there are huge amount of spare parts which is there required for the elevator stuff. So it's like obviously the number of suppliers are huge. Maybe this is a time when they have to really do a comparison and to have to think about which particular suppliers to drop.
Madam, what you are saying is that there is a tire supplier, there is a belt supplier. I'm just taking an example of a car.
Yeah.
So the tire supplier tires are failing more often.
Yeah.
The belt supplier belts are failing more often. If they are failing, they must be the regular supplier of OEMs.
Correct, sir. This data is there. Along with that, the same spare part is also which is compared between the different suppliers. So that is the way you can think about it. Moving forward, so this is the last tracking analysis which we had with respect to. So there are 4 which we had talked about. This was the last, and finally the conclusion is obviously which is what is expected, that after the predictive maintenance implementation, things are working much better. That's what seems to be. We're able to predict, even the spare parts quality, the suppliers quality, the downtime has been reduced drastically. So these are all the things which is what giving them, really edge over the competition. As far as the investment is concerned, that's pretty high. for any of such technology to be put in. I think that analysis still we look forward for what is our return on investment, and that maybe we have to really look after for. We stopped collecting the data as we were not finding exactly where we should take it ahead. More with respect to data analysis, what exactly as an insightful study we can do. So it's on a pause right now, but we are looking forward for suggestion like what sir just been talked about, and those inputs will really help us in terms of making it much more fruitful and impactful for any industry to look forward for a preventive maintenance technologies. So that's it, sir. From my side, if there's any other question from anyone, I'm here.
Excuse me. Did you use any particular model for the inventory management of the spare parts?
So sir, I think it's right now just been the extraction of the data and analyzing it right now. Those are the things we really look forward to work.
There are some different models to be used for spare parts compared to consumables.
But right now not, sir. But that is something which we can take this ahead with. Right now it is just the data capturing, presenting it, and looking forward as what is happening post that technology is being employed. But thank you for the input, sir. Is it from my side? Is there any further question?
What IoT devices? Yeah, IoT devices.
IoT devices.
What IoT devices were you using?
They're using.
Yes,
IoT
These
devices.
sensors, but mostly.
The sensors built inside the elevators already.
Yes.
You didn't use any extra ones.
Maybe I'm not really the right.
But then you said
not
it was
able
quite
to-
expensive the whole
So
year.
I am not in terms of those technicalities, but I remember only the sensors part which has been used. But I will check that, sir. Any other question?
Is it something different from a condition-based modeling? Because condition-based modeling, we used to do a lot, and that way we were able to predict which one is going to have a breakdown. Is it similar to that, or?
Yes, it's about which one is going to have breakdown. Exactly, that's what the prediction is happening, sir, even with this. That is which parts and which particular spare part is required. So it's more of obviously predicting it, but more the way it is like what closed loop maintenance is giving a solution also to it. That how you need to do it. So which particular part is required and all that. So that may be a little aided.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the wonderful presentation.
The second paper, titled Inbound Process Optimization in Warehouse Operations, is written by Dr. Shilpa Narayan Swami, who is an Associate Professor of Operations, and Muhammad Gufran, who is a student of PGDM Operations at Medical Institute of Management Development and Research. We request them to come on the stage and present their paper.
Very good afternoon to everyone. Just a very good afternoon to everyone, and I am very much grateful to be present here, at least getting a chance to get a paper which deals in inbound process optimization. As we have seen, supply chain is being one of the critical aspects in current scenario because of the consumption patterns that have been changed from a very lower phase to the another higher phase. And the most important part is about the COVID-19, which has really led us to the part in which the supply chain movement has become on very higher pace. So this paper is about the inbound process in which we have taken a sort of observation for optimization. And the background of the study, as we have seen, innovation is the basic standard on which it always being a part of changes that occur in either a business or in a lifestyle. So when innovation comes, it also acts as a competitive edge for a business to be to go on another level comparatively to the competitors. So in this study, we have focused upon how we can shorten the time, how we can reduce the time of the inbound process activities and make the process in a such a manner so that the inbound, the quality of input we are taking should increase. The problem statement, as I mentioned, was to optimize the inbound process in the warehouse operation. So as I had a detailed literature review in the paper, so I have taken few of the illustration in them. So as the last one, it is the control of flow. So in warehouse, we have seen majorly if the flow is in a maintained base, the processes that deals in operated among themselves. Like when there is an inbound, there should be equilibrium with the outbound, or else the inventory will be stock up or will lead to the reduction. And the importance of the study, as we have seen, the warehouse being the center part of the supply chain, so it leads with whenever the movement of flow of the material or the product moves, it comes at the stage where warehouse acts as a central part. So optimizing the process which is involved in the warehouse could lead to reduce the time, about the delivery and can add the value addition to the customer. So the live case study, this study was done completely on fully manually operated warehouse, which was basically dealing in a e-commerce industry and having the daily consumable grocery deliveries. So these were the list of equipments that we have taken in our observation. So the case study which it focused is on the receiving and the checking of material basically. So the source through which the receiving of material comes are the 2 points. First is the fresh article from the vendors and the second is the return from the dark stores. So how we are going to maintain that in a manner so that we can optimally utilize the labor or the people there. And as the study solely focus on the inbound area, so other stages that are being put away, storage, pick away and shipment is being a different part of the study. So this is the inbound process flow, starting from receiving a client mail till the end, submitting a Google form and making a GRN done. The research methodology which was used was value stream mapping, in which we have listed down all the categories which were involved, all the activities which were involved in the inbound process, listing down the time, taking the calculation of complete time, and the classification was done on the behalf of value addition and non-value addition, on which we can somehow create optimization. So the data was, the further analysis comes to a point that the warehouse was in a capacity of receiving 40,000 units per day, which was divided into 5 lots, which comes to be 8,000 unit in one lot. So as we have seen, the time required for the complete unloading of 8,000 unit comes to be 96 minutes. So the VA time that we have calculated was 60 minutes and the NVA was 36 minutes. So we were creating a possibility of saving a time of 36 minutes in one shipment, in one lot to be unloading. So while taking them to a 40,000 units, it comes to be a 5 lot. So when this time is converted into a complete day, we are in a position to save around 180 minutes. It was a possibility so that we can optimize the process and increase the tendency of that warehouse to get an input. So now when we are saving around 180 minutes, it comes to be 300 minutes per day in unloading 40,000 units. So this gives an opportunity for an warehouse to increase their inbound optimization. So now how we can effect it on the cost way? So dividing the employee, how the employees are paid, it comes to be around 50 rupees per hour in that particular warehouse. So saving 3 hours in total could lead annually to save around 2,16,000 in a way so that these costs could be used in some other part of the warehouse. So how we are going to tackle these problems? So these problems are being listed down in a descending order, and the deciding factor was the time of their occurrence. As you know, the Pareto principle, that is 80 and 20. So after doing that, we have analyzed that these vital, the major 4 in which the maximum time occurrence occur. So through this method, as we can see 82 cumulative percentage there. So till 82%, this method was used in order to first give a solution to these major 4 problems, which could lead for the further benefit of that warehouse. So the suggestion at the last which we made was, first, as we have seen, the maximum time that has been taking was the driver coming from their dock area and passing through the security gate and reaching it at the point of document verification. So this was found to be a very unnecessary movement which could be easily reduced down when we can shift or modify the stage. The ramp and inbound staging area was put close to each other. So basically this suggestion of the model similarly is to the U-shaped warehouse, in which you put the inbound in a very initial stage and that could be flowed back into the racks and finally could be delivered out. Similarly, the movement, as I mentioned about the dock and the security bus, has been reduced by making this, and the unnecessary movement from the inbound to the staging area was also minimized by creating an inbound stage close to the ramp. And these were the references which I have taken according to the research. And really thank you for your time in the presentation. Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prasad, for the wonderful presentation. The final paper, titled Hierarchical Structure Modeling of Factors Affecting Technology Adoption by MSMEs in India, written by S.S. Patil from Sri Mata Vastu Devi University, Katra, and Vikram Nikra from Indian Institute of Technology, Mumbai. We welcome them on the dais to present their paper.
Good afternoon to you all. I'm a brief introduction about me. I'm Colonel Vikram. I think I'm audible. I'm Colonel Vikram, having 20 years of experience with the armed forces. I did my mechanical engineering and then MTech from IIT Bombay. I'm a certified psychologist and expert in the tanks. So my major role as of now is about the logistic and maintenance. Presently I'm located at Kashmir. So nearby we are having the study being done with the MSME and technological adoption. The sole requirement of this study, firstly, it's very pleasure to coming back to academics after 20 years. I was instructor at CME Pune before 20 years and spent 20 years in the forces and then coming back to academics. The importance of the study, which will require your attention and your contribution, why this is very, very important. You know that with the Make in India coming up, we require a lot of participation from the industry, which can work for us. All the contracts, all the maintenance contracts, all the supportive equipment components requires the MSME to play a vital role. Any industry you see, whether you see HL, whether you see we are making a tank at Audi, we are making a tank at Delhi, we are making Arjun in India, but it's not we are making. All that back home, MSME are doing it. Each and every component they are making. But where are they failing? Why are we not able to make up in such a long time when we have all the expertise? There we lack the technology, we lack the competitiveness, we lack the quality. So the origin of this study belongs to it. All the contracts have 15%, 20%, 25% location. We give promotion to them. We give, Make in India. We put condition in our contract to beat others to give the chance, but still the gap exists. We have made an attempt towards this. Just go through the slides, maybe you'll come to know. After such a heavy dose of inbound, outbound, I really could not get it, although I'm involved in it. It's very difficult to climb a wall which is inclined towards you. It's your teachers, you can never be above them. It's very difficult to kiss a girl who is taller than you. it's very difficult to speak, in front of person who all are from the different field and have ammunition to different. To start with, for any industry, the industrialization and
Can you please show that slide once again? Previous slide.
Sir, I thought you would be interested.
Of course. I'm also from the Air Force.
Great.
Yes, so that's the reason why.
Sir.
No, next slide.
This one.
Yeah, the one which is the girl which is climbing.
Sir.
Very good. Thank you.
Industrialization for any industry is an effective means for the growth of the country, whether it is a social or economic growth. And MSME are the backbone for this industrialization in India or at least in Southeast Asia. Globally, they are playing a major role and major contributor towards generating the employment, manufacturing and export. You will be amazed to see the data. These are acting as an economic growth engines. They are termed as economic growth engine for economies of developed and developing countries both. But in our case, these MSMEs are almost 50% MSMEs are located in rural area and 50% are operating in urban area. Here the difference comes in. Here the difference comes in with the human capital. Here the difference comes in with the infrastructure. They may not have sufficient infrastructure. They may not have connectivity. They may not have sufficient internet to come on IoT. They may not have sufficient infrastructure for the supply chain to reach them. So this makes a major difference. The challenges surmounted after the LPG, that is your liberalization, privatization and globalization. All these three pose the major challenge for MSME to their survival. Before these eras, we had protective policy measures for MSMEs. But after that, the borders have been diminished, tax walls have been raised, and things have been equal for all, which has lost the protection for MSMEs, and now they have to face the global challenges. Although policymakers have continuously taken some measures to safeguard the challenges and for the growth barriers to ensure the growth of the MSMEs. Technological orientation of MSME is lacking overall. This is not able to provide them that level playing field either with the global player or with the local bigger players. Therefore, the holistic assessment of technology development of MSME is required to ensure the productivity, sustained growth and competitiveness. Some glance from the literature. We have seen the literature more of from 90s onwards. What does it brings out? These are providing a large scale employment definitely, but important to note is with a very low capital investment. For any other industry to provide an employment, you require a capital investment. These MSME, I'm so sorry, it is not connected. Right? These provides large-scale employment with the low scale of capital investment. They are growing rapidly and have the potential to become a thrust area for the future growth. MSME in neighboring countries, Japan, almost 70% of the employment of wages. Thailand, it shares the 38% of GDP. China, 68% of export is based on MSMEs. Indian MSME contributes to almost 8% of GDP growth, 45% of total manufacturing and 40% of export. If at this stage you don't provide them the protective policies, laws, how do they make contracts? Who take care of their interests? What is their education level? So these are the areas where we need to look into. We can have simple contractual process for them. Today you make a lease and license agreement, you have to just go for a thumb. Are we doing it for the MSME today? Not, we are not. There is a positive relationship between MSME output and the Indian GDP. Technical upgradation of MSME required for national economic well-being. Under the banner of LPG, technology adoption and competitiveness emerge as a major challenge. They are not able to give out, even after that, they are being given, there is no bank guarantee required, there is no performance certificate required, but still they are not able to match up with the global players. Major reason for the sickness is finance, market, cost of raw material and conventional methods for production. Somebody has worked out what will be the warehouse, where will they store, will they be able to maintain the cost of raw material with the supply chain? No, they are not able to. Finance, yes, we have given a lot of institutional finance to them, but they are actually not financing the required ones. SSI, small scale industries perform better. There was some reserve category of the products, but these SSIs, that time being called SSIs, are performing much better in unreserved category of the product. MSMEs are, it is said that they are technologically backward and face challenges in global competitiveness. Employment generated by MSMEs high in quantity, but low in quality. So their remuneration is also accordingly. Their withholding the manpower is also accordingly varies. Do they have their own R&D? Are they depending on design clinics? Are they getting the consultancies? No, really not. So India as a whole is far below in innovation index in Southeast Asia, and they have a very low focus in R&Ds. Though their products are very, very unique. If they are making something, they are not able to do the patents, but it is their own R&D, and they are being taken away. MSMEs have shown increasing and critical dependence on technology for their performance. They are very highly dependent on the technology for their performance. Apart from the challenges, they have an opportunity because of the diminished border. The chances of innovation, the flexibility of finance that has come up, that can be availed with the contracts, that can be availed with the joint ventures. This fast changing information technology, at least in the services sector, they can utilize where the growth can be harnessed. Internal factors play a major role in performance of MSME rather than the external factors. So the close interaction where your role comes in with the industry and academia is the need of hour, where it needs major focus. They can be given incubations and can be given a sustained growth. This was the rationale of the study that MSME has witnessed increasing investment limits. Since the 1950s, the MSME has changed, but what has changed? It's only the merging of industry, name has changed, and the investment limits have increased. Today, if you go to the financial institution, they will show you that this much loans have been given to MSME, but it's only the brighter section of the MSME, not the actual required. There is no credit worthiness, there is no CIBIL score for the industry. There should be one index should be created for these industries, which should give a score, which should make them eligible. Like a CIBIL score, you go to a bank, your CIBIL score is checked, but it is not existing for that industry. And especially the policy makers' intervention is very much required. We had a protective measures for them. It's again required to protect our industries in this regards. What we have gone into, we tried to identify what are the factors which are responsible for this barriers as a technology adoption. Why MSMEs are not able to take the technology. So we have gone to, I'm bad at it, sorry, I have a habit of operating.
Look at the screen and use the.
No, it is not connected actually.
So
Next slide.
Just say
You
next
can take
slide.
the assistance
What I'm
of
speaking, I'm not able to. Can go next as an identification. Next. Okay. So we try to identify the factors that what exactly is responsible for these barriers towards the technology adoptions. These barriers are major. What exactly it looks at it? Somebody says finance, somebody says marketing, somebody says. So we have gone first into literature. That what does the literature say? So the thorough literature analysis has brought out many factors. We have listed down those factors and also listed down that under those factors, what all dimensions have been studied. Like for top management commitment, what was the focus of top management? What was their vision? What was their decision making? Were they able to do the forecasting? What was their awareness and all? Adequacy of infrastructure, human capital. What was that demographic pattern? What was their basic education levels? Competitiveness of the enterprises. Under competitiveness, there's a very large umbrella under MSME. Today, when we call it MSME, we think of a lagoon joe kind of industry. No, it is not. It is much larger industries are coming under MSME, which can provide the parts to you for your aircraft. If you are making a Indian aircraft, it is the MSME who are providing the components to it. Marketing, finance, technology, implementation, policy management, and regulatory norms. These are the 10 factors majorly which we could identify that these are the reasons for MSMEs to for a barrier for a technology adoption by MSME. Regulatory norms plays a major role today. Today is in a cyber world, we are posing them that they should be coming on e-payment, they should be coming on e-governance, they should be coming on GEM-BIT, that is government e-marketing. But who is taking care of their interest? If he is taking you, if he is coming on the e-banking or something, or any fraud happens, what are the regulatory norms to safeguard their interest? Actually not. That's why that inhibition exists and actual money is not reaching up to them, actual contracts are not working out for them. To confirm these factors, they were quite subjective. When we are taking it from the literature, a lot of people have studied under a different environment, under a different thing. So we have gone next. We have gone to the experts, and the combination of experts was from academia, combination of experts from the industry, combination of experts from the government officials who are actually handling. These are divisional managers of the ministries who are there. So the combination of experts, the input was taken from them, and then we try to quantify these factors. That actually out of these, which factors are more important, which factors are required to be looked into first, next. For this, we have gone and did the ISM. That is, at least at what level this factor exists. So this is an open source on a MATLAB-based programming that reduces the biasness of the opinion of the individual who is given. So if 10 experts or 15 experts are giving you the opinion, and then you are running those opinions into a program, and then statistically correcting it, then you are reaching out to a level that what factors actually as per them are very important. To our benefit, we have just focused on the industries or the expert which are defense related suppliers. So here the important factor comes in finance. Higher the level, higher the importance. The important factor comes in finance, next comes as a human capital, and next is top management commitment. The top management, they should be aware about it. What is the contemporary technology in their field? They should be able to take the risk that we can apply this. What is the rate of return of these technologies? How much they can apply it? Implementation is requires the capability in that top management, whether I'm capable or not. Their employee overnight cannot change, but yes, technology overnight change. Your PCOs are gone. You are no more using a fax machine. So technology changes overnight, but yes, human capital cannot change overnight. So the level of human capital which he is holding over so many years, that also plays a very important role. Next comes to finance. that the institutional finance, you'll be surprised to know in our normal survey or our pilot study which we are doing, we have come to know that almost 65% MSMEs are running on self-finance. They are not able to get the institutional finance. Institutional finance are only given to the companies which are not causing NPA to the bank. Which bank think that they are credit worthiness. So they are running on a self-finance or the local finance, non-institutional finance, whereas government is pushing a lot of money for the institutional finance. The next comes in. The technological orientation and the competitiveness. This competitiveness is a very, very difficult aspect by applying one technology. You will find a lot of studies, MSME and e-banking, MSME and social networking, MSME and this. But applying just one technology, will you be able to compete? No. You require a complete set of box for it. You require manufacturing. You may require a 3D printing in a manufacturing technology. You may require a social networking for your marketing aspect. You may require a e-payment system for your transparency and fast payment. As a bag of technology, you will be able to do that. So this is called as technological orientation. Until they achieve that technological orientation, they won't be able to go ahead with that. They won't be able to compete with their global players. Although in a very, very limited market, they don't have the approach that they can export it to China. How do they know who is approaching them? What is the visibility on their portal that this component exists at this rate, at this place? They don't have that much of visibility to it, and so on. But this was not enough. After that, we have still tried that this is just the level of importance of these factors. It is known as level partitioning by ISO. Next. We have tried the Micmac analysis and the fuzzy Micmac analysis, which gives the exact importance of that factor, the contextual relationship of these factors amongst them. That what exactly, how these factors are related to each other and impacting on each other. And by this method, you actually classify the factors. These factors are classified in four different segments. One are the driver cluster. What are the factors which are having the driving power? So, if you see the quadrangle on the right side, the driving factors is the top management commitment. Until unless top management is committed to take the risk, to take the decision, and there is no decision dilemma, and they are ready to go ahead. Till then, they will not approach the finance, they will not improve upon the human capital. They are the one who will be able to, train the human capital and develop it to adopt the technology. These factors, then the autonomous clusters. These autonomous clusters are those factors which does not impact too much, but yes, they still have a relevance. So the regulatory norms fall into that category. Linkage factors, these are the factors which affect the performance or to achieve the ultimate results. These are marketing and the adequacy of infrastructure. This is automatically calculated by the expert opinion. It's not our putting it. This is automatically calculated by the Micmac analysis. The dependent cluster these are the factors which are dependent on all these factors. So the technological orientation and implementation will be dependent on all these factors. Next. So further in this study, we are planning to develop a model which will be specifically may not be applicable to all, which will be specifically for the defense-oriented MSMEs. The technological adoption will largely be dependent on top management commitment, how much they are aware and their risk-taking ability. Development of human capital I have mentioned, and the skill management is essential for the technological adoption. Institutional finance is required to be monitored for their fair financial support to MSME, and there should be some score for the credit worthiness of the institutions. Infrastructure development linked to the services and business operation require adequate emphasis by the government, because these industries are located in their comfort areas. You can do your job going from one place to another, but you cannot establish your industry going from here to another state or somewhere. So you require this infrastructure development close to the areas. Government has done quite a lot in this. To your knowledge, we have design clinics. They are doing the consultancy, free consultancy to the MSMEs. They are allowing them to develop the product. They are giving an incubation to them. We are giving them 15% of assured participation in the contract. So it's not that we are not, as a government, we are not doing it. We are doing it quite a lot. But yes, focus from the academia is very, very important in this. Thank you. Any questions, sir?
I just had a comment. I think 3-4 years we have been actually trying to push to the government that this is a sector which is very, very critical, and if you have a way to present it to the government, I think that will be very, very beneficial for this sector. That's just a comment which I had.
So, Colonel sir, firstly, I think you should not be nervous at all over here.
No,
Thank you so much for your service to the country. It's an honor listening to you, and you are really looking out for the MSMEs, which is, I feel, a very underprivileged sector of the industrial community. And hats off to you, and I think, thank you so much for doing this. It's so wonderful.
Just an input to the audience that I was involved in the part of making Arjun, the first time which we have done the indigenous with Rakshamantri 3 years back, which is given. So those components or those things are actually based on our backbone, that is investment. These are our man, our industry, which are actually doing it, which will never come up again.
Just to add, you are saying the service to the nation. So I know Colonel Vikram, and just now he didn't tell anybody else, but he has this entire year he has had only 11 days of leave. He told me during the break because he is right there at Udhampur, right? Udhampur. Yes,
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful presentation. We now proceed towards a stimulating and enlightening roundtable conference. From geopolitical issues to the pandemic, supply chains throughout the world have been disrupted, causing billions of dollars in failed revenue for companies. These global scale disruptions have increased the costs of doing business for most companies in the form of operational cost and reputational cost. But amidst all these challenges, organizations have found innovative ways to maintain resilience and improve efficiency in the supply chain, operations, and logistics. These solutions revolve around the organization's ability to implement digital operations, improve and maintain key supplier relationships, and utilize emerging technologies like blockchain, process automation, and AI-driven predictive and prescriptive analytics. These methods will serve as a guiding light for organizations to build a more robust, flexible, and sustainable supply chain. With this thought in mind, we present to you this year's topic for the Roundtable Conference, that is Smart Supply Chain, Navigating the Future. Today we have with us a very distinguished panel of experts who have played a very vital role in shaping the supply chain domain and help organizations maintain confidence in the industry. We would like to take a few minutes to introduce the panel of experts. The first speaker that we have on our panel is Ms. Pallavi, the head of the Product Supply Organization in the Indian and SAARC region at Godrej Consumer Product Limited. She possesses a degree in metallurgical engineering from IIT Kharagpur and a Masters of Management in Operations from IIT Bombay, Shailesh Mehta School of Management. She has over 28 years of industry experience, 13 years with Godrej Sara Limited, and an international stint of more than 8 years as Technical Director, PT Magasari Makan. She has had a rich history of working in both manufacturing and commercial functions, including purchase and procurement of raw and packing materials, new product development, and logistics. She started her career with the Steel Authority of India and worked there on the shop floor for more than 3 years. We are delighted to have you here with us, ma'am. We welcome you to the panel.
Next on our panel. Next on our panel is Mr. Manoj, Bhatia, who is the Vice President Asia Head Non-IT at Morgan Stanley. However, due to unforeseeable circumstances, he would not be able to make it today. Manoj sir sends his regards and best wishes.
Next on our panel is Mr. Devarajan Iyengar. Devarajan sir is currently heading the rapid deployment for the APAC region with Bayer, which is a leading life science pharmaceutical company with core competencies in healthcare and agriculture. He completed his postgraduate diploma in business administration from Indo-German Training Center. He has more than 20 years of experience in different fields like business partnering, category management, and project management. During his stint at Bayer, he has worked in different capacities like Head of Procurement, Global Business Partner for Professional Services, and Associate General Manager of Procurement. He is also an avid speaker and loves to share his knowledge and experience on topics related to procurement and supply chain. Recently, he delivered a speech at the Procurement Leaders Summit, which is a platform for business leaders to share their opinion on present topics like climate change, DEI, digital transformation, and leadership development. We are delighted to have you here with us, sir. Welcome to the panel.
Next on our panel is Mr. Balpreet Singh, who is an Assistant Vice President at Reliance Industries Limited. Mr. Balpreet Singh has more than 18 years of professional experience. He graduated from the National Institute of Technology, Rourkela, with a mechanical engineering degree, and he did his MBA from the Indian Institute of Management, Coimbatore. He is currently an Assistant Vice President at Reliance Industries Limited, heading the digital transformation initiatives. He is a product manager and a scrum master for several projects at his current position. He has worked in supply chain management consulting earlier in his career with SAP India and Bristlecone, where he advised international clients across industry verticals, business processes, and geographical locations. He has extensive experience using IT solutions to address supply chain issues across numerous projects. Mr. Balpreet has also contributed as a subject matter expert to the creation of a supply chain performance analytics tool at SAP Labs. We are honored to have you here, sir, and we welcome you to the panel. We would now like to introduce the moderator for the roundtable conference, Professor Deepak Jakate. Mr. Deepak Jakate is the founder and managing partner of Envision Management Services. He has acquired a degree in metallurgical engineering from the Institute of Technology, Banaras Hindu University, and a PGDM degree with a specialization in operations and finance from IIM Bangalore. With over 30 years of experience in industry, academics and consulting, he has worked with well-known companies and business groups such as Asian Paints, Tata's, and Reliance. His industry experience has been in the areas of logistics and supply chain management, business process engineering, projects and strategic planning. He was also a full-time core faculty at SP Jain Institute of Management and Research in Mumbai as an associate professor of manufacturing and operations. Currently, he is a visiting faculty at several reputed management institutes, both in India and abroad. We welcome you to the panel, sir. Today's discussion will be moderated by Mr. Deepak Jakate. The roundtable conference will be initiated by him, and opinions of our experts on some of the key issues will be sought. The forum will then be open to the audience for questions. We request Professor Ravindra Baliga and Professor Vasudev Danayat to welcome our guests to the roundtable conference and present them with a small token of gratitude for joining us here today. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Shall we start? No permission from the audience. Yes. Okay. So how's the Josh? Okay, good. So everybody is awake? Yes. Okay, good. So firstly, let me start by, I think, on behalf of all the panelists, because that will save some time. We thank the Institute for having us here and giving us a chance to interact with you and share whatever experience we have had in the supply chain. So what we'll do is, we are starting quite a bit late compared to, I think, the schedule. I think all of you must have got the schedule. But as a panel, what we have decided, we will still deliver in time. So we will just consume maybe about an hour or so. So we promise to wrap up by 1 hour, let us say. Okay. So please excuse me for looking at time, but that is part of my presentation. So we will keep doing that. So hopefully we will release you by 5 o'clock, not later than that. Okay. So to start with, what we'll do, I'll just give you a brief about how we plan to go ahead with this session. I'll start with giving a brief 5-minute historical and macro perspective. Though I suppose those of you like me who have been here since the morning would have heard it many times, but still to give a beginning to this roundtable, I'll give a broad perspective. Then we'll get on right on to our panelists with the first round of questions, and we'll go, I think, from right to left initially, and then again I will come back with a background to the second round of questions, and we'll go right to left for the second, so that nobody complains that what I wanted to say somebody else has already said. Okay. So, and hopefully we'll complete these in 20 minutes each, and given that we have an hour, we will leave 20 minutes for you. And again, based on what I saw in the morning, I think you are a very clued-in audience, and we had some very intelligent questions. And all of us as a panel agree that we would like to more talk about what you want to hear rather than what we want to say. So we'll try to give you equal time as what we consume, so 20 minutes. Okay, so that is the challenge. So let's start and you can time us. Okay, so as a perspective, I said one can't in this event. I think we are meeting after 3 years. I remember I was here in the last event in 2019. So I think all of us are physically meeting after a 3-year period. So one cannot help but mention the elephant in the room, which is COVID. Okay, so the entire day I think you must have got sick of the sickness, but still one has to mention. So if you really look at supply chain and the impact of the pandemic, and I just quote something because I am out of the operational supply chain, but I have a lot of friends in the supply chain. I keep talking to them. So let me just summarize what I have heard from my friends in the supply chain. What they have said as far as smartening the supply chain is concerned, and currently I am taking it as a narrow meaning of IT enablement, because that is what is commonly understood as smartening the supply chain. Though if we have time, I have my own definition which we will see if we have time to touch on that. But if one talks about smartening the supply chain by IT enablement, what people tell me is that last 2 to 3 years have seen the advance which otherwise would have happened maybe in 10 years. That kind of compression of cycle has happened, mainly 2 reasons. One, that they said all the constraints which used to be there surrounding application of technology suddenly disappeared. 2 big ones they are mentioning: budget. Okay, their budget always used to be big. Suddenly they said all the money will become available. Budget was not a constraint. Second, big used to be the so-called resistance to change. That disappeared, both internal because your functions within the company were demanding some solution, and external customers were actually shouting for them. People said, can you give us contactless, can you give us electronic payments, can you make things digital, can you deliver at home, and so on. So due to these 2 things, and because of that, from the supplier side, because I have friends in the technology supply industry also, they said the demand suddenly shot up, and the good news for them, the selling cycle suddenly shortened. Because technology typically has a selling cycle of as much as 6 months to a year for big ticket items. They said that crashed really to 15 days to a month. Because people wanted, tomorrow can you deliver warehouse automation, day after tomorrow can you deliver this system. So because of that, as I said, a decade's progression happened in 3 years. So that is the perspective. And going back slightly to pre-pandemic days, as we said, it was not that supply chains were not smart or not IT-enabled. I mean, luckily for the kind of companies I think which are represented here, already there was a good IT infrastructure based on network, hardware, software, good ERP, everybody had ERP, everybody had some form of analytics, simulation, modeling. All that was already there before the pandemic. But unfortunately, when it struck, all these infrastructure collapsed because basically the pandemic was very, very unique in the sense of the scope and scale, the severity and the duration, which was unmatched by any other disruption which was happened in the past. And many had happened in the past, but they were either limited in one of the 3 dimensions. So pandemic, one can say, was a 999 or a perfect storm on all the dimensions. So there was a need really to further smarten the supply chain to cope with such kind of disruption. I'll just very briefly quote the 2 other big disruptions which I think all of us would have lived through. The first one was obviously GST implementation. But there we had a lot of notice, in fact we had more notice than we wanted. For years people were talking GST will come, GST will come. Finally it came, but it was known it will come and it was known what it means. So that was a disruption, but well managed by the supply chain. Second, which did not have this kind of notice, was obviously demonetization, which was sudden, but still it affected a very small part of the supply chain, which was from the customer side, rather than the entire, because your digital payments were wrong and all other things were wrong. So these 2 storms had been weathered by the supply chain. But pandemic, I said, was a different species, and that is where the supply chain broke, and a lot of efforts were made to get it back on track. So as a first round of questions, what we would like to listen from the participant is, how did their supply chains cope with this, or in our theme of the conference language, how did the supply chains become even smarter during these 2 to 3 years of the pandemic? And I think, as I said, we have a very diverse audience from different industries playing different roles and having different backgrounds. So we get a very, very diverse set of answers, but we would like first hand to learn from them in their company, their industry, or their function. How did the supply chain become smarter and cope with this disruption? And of course, the challenge is we are giving them only 5 minutes each. So let us see how they deal with it. So, Pallavi, please.
Thank you. I think this smartening of the supply chain is happening in very different ways. I touch upon the non-IT part first, okay? A little bit, in the sense that because of COVID, suddenly people understood the importance of the supply chain. it was no longer a background, function. It became a foreground function. And let's say in the first year of COVID, first 6 months of COVID, the revenue of the company was being driven by supply chain, right? And so I think the first thing which has happened and which has long-reaching impact is basically the importance of supply chain, the kind of talent and the smartling in talent that we get has actually become better, right? So, this hankering, and I'm from FMCG, so that's why I'm saying this hankering after, let's say, marketing job, sales job, I think, supply chain has gone up there. So I think I will let me talk about non-IT thing first, right? Then I would say that, again, there are different phases in the last 2.5, 3 years, and I'm sure the supply chain people had started working from, let's say, November, December. So we had COVID in March 22, right, the lockdowns. But if you look at the supply chain, and if you're buying stuff from China, you had all the signs from November and December, right? And in terms of, let's say, putting war rooms, control towers, etc., wherever we were sort of working with Chinese vendors, I think that had already started. So, in some ways, on the smartening part of it, on the control tower, on war room part of it, we had a little bit of a head start. We started sometime in December, we started, right? And over a period of time, I think, now if I come back to the IT enablement part, right? Again, I think, again, I'm speaking for FMCG. Our manufacturing would be much simpler compared to, let's say, a process industry or a heavy engineering company. So our focus was more on transparency at first, right? How do we get more transparent? How do we get more transparent internally? How do we get more transparent with our vendors, right? And how do we link all that and be able to do one, integrated business planning, and second, again, I think this is a change in thinking or mindset, right? Earlier pre-COVID mindset is always about service level and fulfillment, because it is assumed that you would be able to produce everything that the customer wants, right? But then the systems during supply chain changed to revenue management, because in the first early days you wouldn't be able to maybe fulfill all the orders that you had, right? Or given the constraint, you would like to manage your revenue or profit first. So all the systems that we built were actually moved a little bit away from service management to revenue and profit maximization. So I think that's the, from a mindset and the way the systems were built, I think that's the other smart thing in that, okay? And the IT stuff, I think what we did was not very, what should I say, glamorous or high-tech or what you want to hear. It was basically simple, common sense things where we basically increased the kind of transparency that we had in the supply chain. And obviously a lot of stuff was done for safety. So I think that's the other change which has happened, because COVID also forced a lot of automation for safety. Again, in FMCG, what happens is a lot of packaging happens semi-automatically, right? And all the end-of-line packaging is also a lot of automation and smartening happened there, right? And the other place from manufacturing perspective, I can say, is that a lot of automation that happens is, while it is productive, it's a little bit inflexible. So a lot of our investment that went into smart automation was to see how the automation is also flexible, because we are automating for safety reasons, because you can't have that many people in a factory. But you want the same kind of flexibility that people give from machines. So the kind of investment you did in the kind of machines you bought were also a little bit changed. They went from being only focused on productivity to also being focused on flexibility.
Thanks, Pallavi, for sharing your thoughts on that. So, yeah, first of all, good afternoon to all. Myself, Devarajan and Iyengar, feel free to call me Dev. Just before I get to address the question, just sort of giving you a perspective of what my company is all about. So I am a proud Bayerite for the last 20 plus years. Bayer is a German multinational company, 150 years have been as an organization, and in India we've been there for the last 125 years. We're in the life science space, which means that we come across divisions like pharma, agro, consumer health. We stand for a very important vision. The vision is health for all, hunger for none. And we know that the products that we serve in the market may not cater to this vision in all scale. And this is exactly what came out during the pandemic. We realized the pandemic has thrown up a VUCA world. What do we mean by this? Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. Be it your personal life, be it your professional life, the VUCA acceleration accelerated in the last 2 years. And one of the enablement for long-term sustainability, be it for an organization, be it for an individual, the learning has been that to be sustainable in this VUCA world, you have to be agile. What you learned yesterday and you would implement today may be off the shelf tomorrow. Now, whether you stick to that or whether you adapt to new operating models, new technologies, that's the piece where you will be competitive in the market. Now, in that context, what did we do in Bayer? We have been also hit by the pandemic, right? We had supply chain disruptions, we had dependencies on China, we had end market where we were part of the essentials category, so we had to serve the market. But it threw up a very interesting element, which is also in our personal life that we faced in the VUCA world. Those are days gone where you will believe you are going to be a Superman to resolve everything. Those are the days gone where you are going to be a Google encyclopedia to know everything. You need to seek support. You need to collaborate. And the foundation of collaboration is transparency. I, coming from procurement, would like to emphasize on the procurement part of what we do in this whole piece. We realized that those days are gone where a procurement manager would try to squeeze the supplier partner for the best, lowest cost possible with every penny on the table. Today we are talking about conversations of security of supply. We are talking about partnership. We are talking about supplier relationship. The reason being that today the opportunity is to co-create value to the end customer, not about trying to stand alone and deliver every solution. And that's for all organizations is coming, right? So in that context, we procurement also went into a disruptive operating model. We realized that we will always have pressure of cost to serve the organization because the organization has cost pressure in the end market. The organization will not be able to realize significant price competitiveness in the end market because there is significant competition. So how do we ensure we are sustainable from cost to serve to the business that we serve, at the same time deliver for the upsides in the demand that comes post-pandemic as well? Or deliver still the cost based on the idle capacity that you have during the pandemic period. And that's why this whole perspective of disruptive operating model comes into picture. And I would like to emphasize on that piece. And I strongly believe, as Pallavi said, IT is just an enabler. What is important for us to know is what's the unmet need. Maybe we will also articulate on that in our subsequent questions, but again the point comes to what's the unmet need. And for the unmet need of procurement function, it was about the disruptive operating model. So we introduced a model that we said, let's de-link strategy with operations. Let's bring dedicated, consolidated operations towards shared service center across few consolidated footprints globally and drive operations to that space. Let's co-create value for our stakeholders through an outsourced model by tying up with a supplier partner and run sourcing projects with them. Let's focus on business partnering with the stakeholders as our in-house retention area. Let's bring in collective resources to drive significant projects globally through offshore markets like India. Today for Bayer, India is a very key country in terms of labor, in terms of talent. We have a global business footprint out of Bangalore where significant number of global operations are being done offshore, remotely, through this particular delivery center. So for me personally, just to summarize, I look at pandemic as an opportunity to rejuggle and reshape and take the baseline significantly differently. At the same time, be humble enough to accept the fact that it's not just pandemic which has woken us up. Long term, sustainability is going to be one of the aspects which each one of us act a role to play. Because eventually the Mother Earth needs to be protected. And sustainability becomes one of the integral elements of each and every company to drive towards sustainable supply chain. I would take a pause. Of course, we can take it further on question and answer sessions, but I would request Balpreet to add his perspective of how he sees it.
Thanks to Dave and Pallavi for bringing in their perspective. I'll talk a little more on the IT enablement of supply chain, and they've talked about supply chain and procurement, and IT enablement has been my core. What I've seen in almost like 19 plus years of my experience, that technologies change, and due to that, how we can enable or get value out of a business process also keeps improving. There could be some automations, and after that there could be something else. And that is what has happened. Now, if I bring in a perspective of the industry that I've been working on for more than a decade now, petrochemicals to be specific. So it's a commodity industry. So here, there have been cycles in terms of when the commodity cycle goes high, and people think about they should have invested earlier, and then there's an investment cycle, and then there could be a glut in supply. So all these ups and downs have happened, and in the same way, when there are investment cycles, there are a lot of investments that have happened on the technology side as well. So bringing in a perspective of GST, it brought in a lot of investments, and as well, there were things which were being done in the organization and outside in the industry also, in terms of all new technologies which were coming in even prior to COVID. Yes, COVID accelerated a lot of these implementations and decision making, but the technologies like, let's say, machine learning or data science, which had started to become a little more broad based towards, I would say, 2016, 18, 19 onwards, had already started to take up some roots. Now, there were few areas in the commodity or petrochemicals industries where things started to get a lot more improved in terms of IT enablement, faster decision making, as well as seeing that yes, the technology value could be there in terms of the investments that are being made. So one big angle is in terms of safety. A lot of these products, specifically the liquid petrochemical products, are something where safety is important when they are being manufactured A, and B when they are being transported from one location to another. So this is where all those IoT devices have come into picture, which would tell us that what is happening where, and then a lot of algorithms put in place that can I predict something even before things go wrong, sort of predictive algorithms. And in the same way, on-road safety also, can I get a lot of such insights into how my product is moving from location A to location B? Is this transporter or is this vehicle safe enough for me to get it back for the next round of trip as well? So these were some specific areas that I've seen across this industry is being used. Apart from that, in terms of the planning and execution part of supply chain, there have been new insights that have come in specifically on the data science part, and a lot of these big technology providers, as well as the new gen best of the breed which have come in. So be it supply chain planning, be it execution, there are these technology providers which have this embedded intelligence into it, which would tell us that what can go wrong earlier or how can I do better earlier. So rather than being post facto, which used to be earlier, that okay, now that I've sold something, can I look at it, how do I improve next? Can there be some predictive and prescriptive model so that I get to do things faster? Can I sense demand better, closer to the time when the demand is changing, rather than thinking of it in terms of a monthly model that okay, next month I will think about what has happened last month and try to do that. Can I do that maybe twice a week or at best on a day basis? So this is how IT enablement has started changing the way people look at it. And with advent of COVID, the positive part was that what people used to think that things can only be done when we meet face to face. No, I can't, let these technologies come in because for whatever reason I need my person in office and he'll only look at it. Those things started to change. People could sense that if I can have data and I have to use data sitting in front of a laptop in an office, I can do it from anywhere.
So that resistance to change in terms of how acceptance of things happen, in terms of where the work can be done and how the work can be done, definitely changed a lot. So I keep it till here that how technology has improved and definitely COVID helped, but the change itself started a couple of years earlier.
Thank you for everybody for being very brief and very eloquent in the short period. So I just like to summarize and repeat some point because I myself had a suspicion in my mind that smart supply chain is not equal to technology. And indirectly or directly, all the three people have confirmed because whenever I interact with students and when we talk of smart supply chain, the entire conversation is about AI, ML, IoT, 5G, metaverse, and whatnot, and which we don't know, and what chat GPT or whatever you do. So the core message, and it started with Pallavi, she said very, very clearly that the first thing, normally people say every cloud is a silver lining. And luckily for supply chain, this crisis had a golden light because supply chain came to the forefront and it became a revenue driver, actually. And earlier, when I was active in the supply chain, we used to have, I don't call it a joke, I used to call reality. Supply chain was called both in books and reality as the back end. Okay, and I think everybody knows entire body, anything makes a mistake, the back end gets hit. Okay, so that was supply chain. So that has now changed. People have realized the importance of the back end, which today became the front end, and that has come out. And as you can see, everybody really spoke. Yes, technology is important, it matters, but unfortunately, it has a very short shelf life. So we have to remember what are the basics in a smart supply chain, are the basic functions which need to be done and need to be executed. So we heard they were speaking about collaboration, transparency, sustainability, safety. These are the core things which come out. How do you execute or implement them will keep changing depending on the technology. And luckily we have a technology person available. So all the technology questions can be directed to him possibly. So we will take care of them. But even he, if you see, spoke about what your planning, execution, forecasting. These are core supply chain functions which you can do in different ways at different points of time using different technology. And the change, as he also mentioned, and which I had also heard, was is that we accelerated these technology developments, and other thing which he added very much, which was an important point, that it also improved our trust in technology. Like we were discussing before we came here, that just like today in our personal life we trust implicitly Google Maps. When it says turn left, you blindly turn left. That was not so much there in the industrial technology or our work technology, but because we got dissociated and we were all in different places, we realized that yes, we need to have that kind of trust in technology because we may not be personally there where the operations are. So these are all the positive changes which happened in supply chain, and I said it was a real blessing in disguise for the supply chain. So having very, very briefly covered the history, now we want to move to the future, and again let me give a very, very small perspective. As I said, I keep on talking to supply chain people. In this year, 1922, when at least in India, pandemic receded to the background, then when I spoke to people in supply chain, especially procurement, now they are talking about something different. They said after COVID, the new challenge is what they very eloquently put, the 3 I's. Okay, the 3 I which were interrelated and each triggering the other is the inflation, inflation, and interest rate. Okay, and I think we know all what the 3 are, which inflation and which led to which inflation and which ultimately led to interest rate going up. And that interest rate has an impact on everything, including investment, in anything including technology, because it pushes up the cost and justifies that interest rate cost then becomes a job for the supply chain. So we are having this, and the other message, of course, again I think we discussed in the morning, though we are saying that is post-pandemic. In India it looks like post-pandemic, but if you talk to Apple and Foxconns of the world, they are still grappling with the pandemic as well. So before it got over, we had this new challenge. So like Chris said, now we most likely will be seeing a black swan every year. Okay, which was once in a lifetime, now happens every year, and maybe more frequently. So now the next challenge, looking at the future, is in the medium term, because I don't think anybody can look into the long term. In the next, maybe again, like we look back 2 to 3 years, looking ahead 2 to 3 years, again in their own organizations, functions, roles, with their brain, how do they see supply chain becoming smarter? Okay, so again I said now we will shift to whatever they feel is smart, and as I said, they have confirmed my suspicion that we should not equate smart equals IT, right? We should look at many more things which can make supply chain smart. So I leave it as open question that how do they see their supply chain in their company, their industry, in whatever role they are playing, becoming smarter in the next 2 years, because we need to become smarter because we are going to keep on having such events. Before the effect of pandemic is over, we have the invasion. before the invasion, war is over, we may have something else. So the world is as if becoming VUCA square, okay, and maybe VUCA cube, then VUCA raised to the power infinity. So how do we really make the supply chain smart enough so that it doesn't break the way it broke during the pandemic? Luckily, it didn't break during the 3 I's. It did cope, but maybe the COVID helped because it had become that resilient that it could cope with this new crisis which happened. So how do we make the supply chain much more resilient too, as the second part of our thing was to navigate the future? Over to you, I think, Balpreet now. We come from there to here.
So before I start, probably I'll add something to what you mentioned, that supply chain used to be the back end, was supposed to be the back end. And if I add one more angle to it, my personal challenge is that IT is supposed to be back end of supply chain. So now, supply chain and IT together are at the forefront. Everybody wants to talk about how can you make it smart or smarter. Now, obviously, even with technology, there is a human angle that we talk about being smart. It cannot be technology smart and people dumb. So it has to be a combination of it. And in the near future, as you rightly said, it could be VUCA to the power, anything that we want to think of. Things are changing. We need to be as agile as possible and ready to make changes on the fly. Now, here, there could be something that we may term it as a gut feel, a sixth sense, or whatever, that definitely comes into the place for adding or making your decision feel more comfortable, confident. Those number crunching or help of a technology tool definitely comes into the picture, because at times when somebody will say that I have a feel, people may not want to agree to it. And as you already mentioned that that industrial IoT probably doesn't have that sort of confidence in people, because we may not have so many data points or examples of saying that it is always right or more right than wrong that way. So this would probably in last few years people have had more and more comfort in terms of what technology can do in collaboration with people, and not only as a autonomous technology, but how we can make it to the best use. So any sort of algorithms which would help them make their decision faster, make them react or predict things that may need to be changed before we actually get into a rut, is what is the need of the hour. So any type of technology, and for me, even though I started off with one of the big technology provider, it being SAP, but I am technology agnostic. At the end of it, if the business demands that this is my problem area, I need a solution to it, or the scenario is changing, what can you help me with? It has to be whatever works for that scenario in that condition. Earlier, whatever we did probably lasted for a few years, if not a decade. However, even that span has come down. Now, even people come and say that I have heard of something being done somewhere. They use a chatbot. Why can't we use it? These are the things that me or even my friends who are there in the consulting industry keep getting that. Why can't you use an AI or an ML into it? I have heard of it. So this is what even the challenge on the technology side, that yes, people are aware, but it also means that there is a growing sense of confidence in what technology can deliver or has already delivered somewhere else. So a mix of human intelligence, add to it the decision making help that any technology can give to you in your organization or a business process, is what will help us be ready for the future. What will come, we all don't know, but then we have to just get ready, and probably COVID has taught us that anything can happen, and you just need to go with the flow and figure out what you can make the best out of it in the situation. So I'll stop here and ask.
Thanks, Balpreet. And Balpreet made a very important point. And I'm coming to the business. I have no IT technical background, but I am a hardcore business perspective. What Balpreet said is exactly what I would like to emphasize on. The IT technologies are the enabler. It's the how part. And the how part will keep changing. And the how part need not be only standalone IT technology. So it will be a mix of hybrid model. But the first point which each one of us will always have to be sensitive about, if you are business management students and if you go into a corporate organization taking up multiple roles, always be curious about the what part. Because unless you know the what or the unmet need, the how part is the secondary part. Yeah? So you're getting to the second step without knowing the first step. Let me give an example, rather two examples to bring this perspective, personal, professional life. The what part, the unmet need. I stayed in Thane, Hinandani estate. My parents live in Bhandu, 15-20 kilometers. Life was very smooth. In the weekends I used to travel and see them, and then I used to come back because for sustainability part I relocated near to my office, which was exactly 5 minutes from my home. But then pandemic stuck. For 7-8 months I couldn't see my parents. And one of the additional constraints my parents had was it was such a stringent regulation we had, they could not get milk in the morning. Yeah, those were those 2-3 months when we had such a hard time. And my dad used to walk 1 kilometer to get the specific brand that he wanted. And I used to be very unhappy and frightened and threatened that what's the risk of this? Yeah. And this is where the unmet need was that how do I ensure to take care of my parents without having a safety issue and getting the brand that they want 5 o'clock in the morning. Now look at the how part. The how part is big basket and trucks. The app enables you to order milk, reorder it every day. You can cancel, amend every day, give them a return of 24 hours. And then they deliver it the next day morning to the place that you want. And I used to do that for my parents. And then the milk used to be delivered early morning. Now you will say, where is the how part coming here? The how part is 2 elements here. The operating one. Big basket doesn't have the last mile delivery. They have the aggregator concept through which they deliver it to the end resource required wherever you want. And the enablement was the IT enablement of the app where I could order. Let's bring it back to a professional thing. In a procurement organization, one of the challenges that we have is resource constraints. You will not get adequate or n number of resources to process your transactions. But in the packaging organization, there are so many new product launches which yields and packaging materials required. Though the price point is the same, you need to end up creating price updates in the system for, on an average, about 10,000 line items. So procurement will say, I need resources to do it. It's a manual work, significant manual work. But the unmet need was to automate it. And this is where the enabler comes today as RPA, robotic process automation, which tries to analyze if the price is same. It's not about change in the price point because the product material element is not changing. It's only the name and the layout changing because of the different brands that you use. If you can fix up the price in the contract at another level, you need not have a resource to do this manual lift of updating prices that can be done by a process automation. So that's the enabler part. And what is the result? You end up having 60% efficiency in the manual lead time reduction for that particular transaction. So the point I want to re-emphasize here is, you as management graduates, when you pass out and work in corporates, as rightly said by Balpreet, don't try to mug up about the how part. Yeah, so we end up spending time on, let's try to understand what's the definition of machine learning, what's the definition of artificial intelligence, what is augmented reality. Of course, we should know about it. I'm not getting away from the fact. But that's the how part. Always have an eye on the what part, the unmet need. And based on that, technologies have to support. And technologies have to support, and there will be competition in the technologies to take away what is supporting you currently, as long as the technology is affordable. As long as the technology is convenient to use, the technology will have a significant shelf life. Look at the UPI payments. Who on earth would have believed that you go into a bajiwala in the market and you will be able to do a digitalization payment? The developed countries are looking at India and they are flabbergasted. I have my line manager out of the Western European market and he says, how come you have this concept where the bajiwala takes a UPI payment? We have unheard of in our developed market. Now, why do you think we were able to penetrate that? The convenience of use, the ease of use, and the affordability of use. Significant penetration. Right? So, I would like to take a pause here. I would give it to Pallavi, but my summarization is, of course, focus on the how part, but always keep an eye on the what part.
So, you talked about VUCA. I think everybody has heard of Murphy's Law, right? And so I want to talk about something else. There's a O'Toole's corollary to the Murphy's Law, right? Where Peter O'Toole says Murphy was an optimist. So we are living in We're no longer living in Murphy's world, we're living in O'Toole's world. Okay. So that's where we are at. Right? I think I'll add to what Balpreet said. So because there's so much uncertainty, right? So when we look at technology, when we look at business processes, right? What do we look at? We look at all sort of processes which will help us delay, right? If we have WIPs converting into FG, how can I delay? If I'm moving stuff from a plant warehouse, a regional warehouse to a CFI, how can I delay my decision? So the whole focus in getting a lot of this data, etc., is to help us delay the irretrievable decision, right? Basically, which increases the kind of options that we have to meet this change in the variability that we face, right? So when we look at technology, whether it's manufacturing technology, whether it's packaging technology, whether it's data, right? What is it that helps me delay the decisions, right? Because most of us already know how to take good decisions, but we end up taking them earlier and things turn out the other way around. So a lot of our focus, and we can talk about technology, we can talk about IoT, we can talk about transparency, we can talk about RFID, X, Y, Z, whatever it is, right? And in FMCG, for example, right? We're obviously trying to figure out ways to do demand sensing, because again, it's something which helps us delay and ensure that we meet the consumer demands, right? And while technology is an enabler, it certainly, that when the cost of the technology changes, when what is available to you changes, it does change the business model, right? So for example, because you could not forecast well, right? The supply chain model was of replenishment. It was always of replenishment. That is what we do. But if I'm able to forecast well, if I'm able to do demand sensing well, right? Then I would still replenish, but based on what we had earlier, I could replenish with lower levels of inventory, right? Or I could actually move from a replenishment model to a forecasting model, right? And I would be able to reduce my logistics cost, because in replenishment, the logistics costs are it's a hub and spoke model, so your logistics costs are higher than when you would do direct, right? So technology is an enabler, but it can actually help change the model, right? So we are on the lookout of things which could affect the kind of model that we have, broadly speaking, and help us delay decisions. So very broadly speaking, I think this is how we look at technology. I will talk maybe more from a manufacturing perspective. There will be a lot of, let's say, IoT-led technologies that we would look at, which would help us, even with retrofitting, improve the kind of efficiency we have. It also improves the kind of transparency that we have, right? So all of us do monitor OE, etc. But when we were on logbooks, again, we were not very sure about the data, right? The moment you have OE, you know exactly what the root cause is, right? You have better data on which you can take engineering actions. The solutions are still engineering actions, right? But the technology helps us to tackle the right problem. Sometimes you're not, figuring out, or you don't know what the right problem is.
That we in supply chain are very used to getting clicked by every function. So he has offered IT as someone we can click in turn. So thanks a lot for that. But to add to that, for years and years, students used to come and ask me this, that what is the number one quality required for a supply chain professional? And for years I used to give one answer. Maybe today it is changed, so I'll give a chance to others to answer in Q&A. But my answer always used to be a very thick skin. That is the number one. Okay, so I think I don't know the things have changed now. But jokes apart, the other important point which both Dev and Balpreet made, that technology application has to be need backward. It cannot be technology forward. And I do a lot of corporate training, and when I do programs for things like say Industry 4.0 and on, not just students, even people in corporate with 5, 10, sometimes 10 plus year experience, end of that session they ask, how do I use AI in my supply chain? So my answer is wrong question. That is the wrong question. Never ask how can I apply technology XYZ in my supply chain. Start with what is your need. And there we have a beautiful example, particular need, particular requirement, then a particular technology which helps you take it. So it has to be starting with the need, not starting with the technology. Then you get the right answer. Otherwise we have people who basically I call this a solution in search of a problem. with Pallavi also emphasized. And we have many such cases. I think we do have time, so I will share a very, very personal, interesting example later on. But I would just like to also emphasize a couple of points which Pallavi made in slightly technical language. One is, in such kind of VUCA world, it helps if you can delay your point of commit. That commit may be decision, commit may be sending a material, it can be any commit, which is basically a decision which you take which either is irreversible or it is very costly to do. So more you can delay your point of commit, it helps, and then you can search for technology which will help you do that, delay that point of commit. That is number one, which is very, very important. Second, as I said, the same thing, which I wanted to give an example. She did mention that many times we don't identify the right problem to solve. And then we end up wasting resources in solving the wrong problem, or in extreme cases, solving a problem which does not exist. Okay, so as I said, I'll give a brief example because I had very, very recently such case. During the peak of COVID, there was one food delivery company which toyed with the idea of drone delivery. Okay, and at that point they created a project, spent almost 6 months, and anyway, by the time the project fell through because the COVID receded and so on, but just towards the end they had come to me that we have thought of all these things. So how do you deliver by drones in a city like Mumbai when a guy may be in a 12th floor apartment without a balcony or something? And I said that spent 6 months and I went through the minutes of meet and all. I don't know anything about drones, I don't know anything about technology. But then they had even discussed something that in that case, does the drone hover above the window and then you grab it, or do you send the drone to the nearest part and ask the guy to go there? So I said, okay, you just tell me, because I am a Six Sigma black belt, so I normally follow the DMAC process. So I asked them, can you define your problem first in one sentence? So they said, okay, problem definition is, how do we get a drone to a place where the customer desires it? Okay, so I said, okay, that is the problem. The solution is use a delivery boy or e-bike. So, and they did use it. Only thing, of course, they said, why send a drone, why not send the food itself? And that was the day they were doing it anyway. So basically, this was trying to solve a problem which does not exist. Because sending a drone to the place where the customer desires, you are anyway able to send the food packet, so why bother with the drone itself? But that comes out of a desire that, okay, there is some glamorous technology, everybody is talking about it, why not apply? So this is what typically happens when you start technology backward rather than the need for it. So avoid all these traps which everybody has brought out, and then you will find that your IT enablement of them, you will really make the supply chain smart by tackling the right problem, the problem which needs to be solved, the problem which customer is willing to pay for being solved. The other two words which they mentioned, affordability and convenience. Those are the two things which will make the customer adopt the solution or make the customer pay enough for you to afford the solution. Otherwise, you can come up with a very, very high cost solution, but customer will say, why should I pay so much extra? It is not my problem, it is your problem. So I think all these are the lessons which are there. So I think we have, my promise time, as I said to you, was 5 o'clock. So we do have those 20 or so minutes. We can start with the questions. So if you have questions from a particular person, just address it to that, or if you have general question which anybody can take, just mention. Okay, so the floor is open for audience.
So I have just one question, like this enabling smart supply chain in any industry, or like is it an opportunity for a new business, or it strengthens the existing business of a particular like company? So what, or like this particular smart chain supply chain, where will it help us?
You want any particular person to answer, or to be proper? So I think I'll just take a quick shot, but I think there are many more experts rather than me. If I understand your question correctly, if you have a new business, let us say. Okay, so the biggest advantage of a new business is absence of legacy, which is a huge, huge advantage, because to move, I think it is basically the same inertia which is there in any existing business, or there are switching costs for existing business. So if you have a startup in your language which has no legacy at all, then you can actually start with a very smart supply chain, right? If you have a legacy business, then you have to smarten the supply chain. So that makes a very, very big difference in terms of how quickly you can do. That's why I think today morning we had so many examples where a startup can have a very, very intelligent supply chain, and you say, oh, this company has been there for 150 years, it has so much resources, why its supply chain is not as smart? So So the reason is that the legacy and the inertia and the effort required to do. So that I think partly answers your question. So I think you can clarify or anybody else can take a shot at it.
Just to follow up that there are two type of project as far as my knowledge. There's a greenfield project and a brownfield project, like what consultants work on. So it's easier, like what I have understood, it's easier to implement a smart supply chain in a greenfield project, or is it when it comes as compared to like a brownfield project, because it's a going on project already, and when you start something from scratch, you can implement the smart supply chain efficiently, right?
Just can confirm or deny. I said I just give my opinion. Others have a
Let me take that. What's your name?
Results.
Rajat. First of all, thanks for bringing the eyes and asking a very challenging question. I would like to put it this way, as Sir said, it all depends on the company culture. Whether you are having a brownfield project or a greenfield project, whether you are a 150-year-old company or whether you are a new company, you will have to bring a startup culture. The biggest challenge that we have as corporates or also as individuals, we are always having the fear of being judged for being failed. The fear of being judged for being failed stops us from experimentation. And the fact is that if you don't experiment, you are not going to learn. And if you are not going to learn, you are not going to survive this world. So I would also endorse what Sir said, that it's not about whether it's a new company or whether it's an old company. Of course, if it's a new company, you have a very lot of flexibility of accelerating change because you have no baseline. So you would like to change fast. But in the old company, it does not have the mindset to change. It's not going to survive. That's the whole space where it's all about the culture of the company. And the culture of the company expected today is to have a startup culture. That would be my view. Does that answer your question?
Hello. Good evening, sir. Actually, more than a question, I just need your view. Okay, I am Professor Rahul here. I am with HSN. It's a slightly different view. When we are talking of smart supply chains, anyone can take it. Every time we are talking of, as far as India is concerned, we are talking of IT and digitization, and that's the main theme. But what is your view on infrastructure? Because for supply chains to be smart, infrastructure is one thing, because if we see, as far as technology and IT is concerned, we are almost at par with the world. The same technology is there in Singapore, the same is in Dubai, the same is everywhere. But infrastructure is the thing where we are taking a lot of beating. And to make smart supply chains, and especially in the future, and with the emphasis of the current government on all these projects, so I think that also can make something which is smart. So then, what is your view on that? And one more point is, apart from infrastructure, as Balpreet sir said in the beginning, it's not just smart technologies, we need smart people. So again, the opportunities are here. We need skills. So of course, at skill also we are good if we compare with other developed also countries in the world. So what I'm meaning to say is, smart is not just digital. Smart includes smart people and then infrastructure, probably policy decisions, governance. I mean, the main thrust is infrastructure, of course.
Thank you again for a very provocative statement that you made. And again, 100% right. Infrastructure is also one of the enablers. The how part, right? The what part is that with the pandemic, all the, I come from the life science industry, so we realized as pharmaceutical, agrochemical companies trying to sell the product in the market, we were running short of raw materials. And we realized that the dependency on China as a country for supply of raw materials is significantly there. So that really clearly shows that from an infrastructure point of view, we may have a fantastic ERP tool to navigate when the lead time would be to deliver the product from China. But the delivery of the product itself is not there because the factory has gone for a shutdown. So the dependency of having backward integration in the country to reduce the lead time and have multiple sources of supply has become a key element of supply chain making decisions. So definitely infrastructure is one of the key enablers. And I think with the government, they have realized it, and as you see here, that we're talking about multiple areas where they're trying to promote it. advocating also as an organization. So when it comes to infrastructure, it's about transportation, it's about not just the setup, but it's also about the internet penetration, the remotest place. It's about those last mile deliveries, how we can make it more robust. So definitely infrastructure is also one of the how or the enablers in driving smart supply chain. So I fully agree with your perspective, and it's not just about it. Yeah, so these are the multiple enablers that we do find.
The cost of talking talk time, let me just give another view on that. This is mainly for the students because you gave me an opening for something which I wanted to share with them. The infrastructure is what it is. Okay, so the question comes is, do you look at it as an opportunity or a constraint? And depending on that, you can exploit it or you can blame it. Okay, so the open question is actually written for the students. If we agree, which everybody seems to agree, that India is very poor in infrastructure, then how come the world's smartest supply chain is in India? So it's open to the students which is it and what it is and what, but it is in India, the world's smartest supply chain. Okay, so can now anybody answer now? It's a question to you now. Which is okay, so all of you can think me, but I hope you won't answer. Because I want to answer.
Okay. So I think better infrastructure is always good. Okay. But just to add to point what Professor was making was this, right? You have to decide as a society what is important, right? We are the world's best drivers, but we are the world's best traffic, right? So, what is it that you want? Do you want good drivers or you want good traffic, right? So we have smart people, but we may not be a very smart country, right? So you have to figure out what is it that you want, right? One of the reasons I would guess that Indian managers do very well, and it's related a little bit to the infrastructure question, is because we're able to handle any kind of variability. It doesn't faze us, okay? Because we were born looking at variability all our life. We look at variability, suddenly a road will close, suddenly a train will not go. So we always know three ways of doing things, right? In the developed world, they don't know three ways of doing things, they only know one way. So when they come up or they have to build huge processes to manage this variability, whereas it is inherent in us. So that makes us good managers. Doesn't necessarily mean that we have a better system, right? So I think it's just food for thought. What is it that you want?
Did anybody crack it? The smartest supply chain in the world, which is in India.
Wait above.
Yeah, exactly. So it is right here, and why I am so confidently saying it is that when I had first heard that Dabbalas is more than a decade ago, they were charging 300 rupees per month for delivering the dabba for 25 days. They only take Sunday off 6-day week. At that time, I had personally asked my contacts in DHL and FedEx that if you have to do this, so 10 rupees per day for taking the dabba and bringing it back on average. I'd asked them if you have to do it on a no profit, no loss basis, how much you will charge. Okay, they had at that time answered 30 rupees for one way, which means 60 rupees per day. Versus these guys are doing it for 10 rupees and feeding their families with it. Not no profit, no loss. Second, I asked them, okay, you will do that. What is the error rate you can guarantee? Guarantee, because if you miss, I will levy very heavy penalty. So they said 1 in 10,000 mistakes. And what is the dollar mistake? All of you know. What is it? Somebody should know.
6 into.
What does that mean?
6.
How many mistakes?
1 in a million.
6.
Less than 3.14 dpmo.
6.
Okay, okay, but that is technically, but less than 3.14 per million opportunities. And there are various opportunities in one delivery. You can deliver it to the wrong guy, you can deliver it there. So in one delivery there are multiple opportunities and they achieve it. And these guys, at least 10 years ago, best of the logistic companies in the world with all the IT infrastructure and resources, could not promise more than one defect per 10,000.
So Deepak sir, following up to that question, how many cities does Dabbawalas operate?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, that was my exact point.
Was not seen.
Yeah, exactly. That is why I mentioned, do you treat infrastructure as an opportunity or a constraint? They said in Mumbai, the local truck, it is an opportunity, let us do it. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work. In fact, they themselves said they heard about metros and somebody asked them, why don't you do? They said it doesn't work because that opportunity in Mumbai offers no other city and no other transport system. So it only works here, but they saw it as an opportunity. So why can't FedEx see opportunity in the German market and do a Six Sigma delivery? They can't, with the best of infrastructure at this cost. So that's why I said it is what it is what you look at it. You look at opportunity, it may not be scalable, it may not be transferable, but it is the best solution for the best situation. So you have to solve a problem where it exists, where you want to do. It may or may not be transferable because they are very, very clear they don't want to be out of Mumbai, they don't want to be expanding in the world. In fact, they didn't want the Six Sigma certificate. The guy who presented it said it was given to us, we never applied, we never knew what it is. Somebody came, studied us and he said, you are Six Sigma, take this certificate. So that is how they got it. So it's exactly the question which was asked, like do you look at the circumstances as an opportunity or as a constraint? And if you look at it as an opportunity, you can have huge solutions because as I said, we are the best manager in the world due to all these constraints. So I don't want to use that much misaligned or misuse word jugaad because that has got now negative connotation of being a low quality solution. So it is not a low quality, it is a frugal solution which works, and that is why coming back to which I wanted to mention that I don't know whether everybody will agree, my definition of a smart supply chain is which delivers the desired outcome with minimum use of resources. No AI, ML, GPS, handset, handheld device, nothing. Illiterate, 4th standard pass people doing their work with the devotion as if they are serving the Lord. I hope all of you have heard that Apollo if not do, n number of resources are available. They say customer is God and we serve him with the devotion which we devote to a God. So no boss required to monitor nothing, all things managed because it is not that they don't fall sick, it is not that trains don't run late, but everything is managed on their own. So that's a unique solution for a unique problem with a unique technology which consumes very, very little resources. No literacy even required. Okay, so that's a specific example, but that is a learning process. So why can't we carry over that thinking in your career and then come up with something? Okay, sorry for moving the top 10. I think now I keep my mouth shut.
Okay. So I have two questions. Those are general questions. These constraints have pushed us towards these solutions majorly. What is the cost which has impacted because of these? Any cost enhanced or if it is a low cost technology or technology cost is reduced during this time? What is the impact of the cost for applying the smart supply chain? Second question is, our major, before this also we were surviving and doing well. I'm from a background where I'm feeding to the last man in Siachen every day. He's not missing his meal. So, by involving so much of complexity in the system in the name of smart solutions, we are actually losing on the flexibility part, which is a major strength for the supply chain as I understand. So, your comment on this.
Specifically on a question of cost, so it has to justify its cost. Any technology or any implementation, you cannot just go ahead and say that, okay, $100 million and do whatever you want. It could be, at the end of it, it is selling price minus cost price equals profit. So either I am able to increase my selling price or reduce my cost price. Somewhere it has to fall. Or it could also be that, let's say, in other words, I can reduce the number of hours of resources being used in that. In some way, it could be that, let's say, a new catalyst is being used in a reaction and it helps in bringing down the manufacturing cost. Or by using IoT solutions, I am able to reduce the maintenance cost. In some way, the technology has to have an ROI of whatever the organization wants. It could be 1 year, 6 months, 2 years, whatever, that they have to be comfortable with. Without that, I don't see a value. That's somebody, investing your PE firm coming and saying that, okay, burn cash and just try to do whatever you want, not sustainable. Most of the organizations that look at that, can you deliver me in a definite time? That is what tried and tested, or organizations would want to do that. And then the other part that you talked about, CH, a personal example that I have, I met a cousin of mine, a doctor, who has stayed in Siachen for what he told, instead of 90 days, 170 days, because his replacement came in late. And he told that once he ordered for few specific things, including toilet rolls from his brother in Delhi, and it reached him in 7 days, everything intact. So as you told, yes, without any so-called technologies, things move from one point to another. What they want, they get it in whatever time that they would have got a promise for. So technology, as they said, it is, and it is that how do you want to do it? I can do it without technology also. So let's forget about that. It is a technology only. It has to have a value add. It has to have an ROI. That's how I put it.
Yeah, correct. So I think this is exactly the topic here, right? So the scope of the discussion is not technology. The scope of the discussion is about smart solutions. And one of the smart solutions, as you yourself gave the answer, is about keeping your eyes and ears open for best practices. Yeah. So it's not necessary that for everything technology is the one fit for all solution. There would be situations where you may have to have a hybrid model of the operating model with the technology to drive the solution. Or for that matter, even if the example of CHN that you gave, it could be possible there's a very good flexibility best practice that exists in that particular cycle, which can be adapted back in my license industry. Am I open for that? The very fact we all have to take it from here is that keep an eye and ears open for best practices. And those best practices will be in the personal life, in the professional life, and you need to always have the flexibility in your culture to adapt or adopt to that. And for me, that's a key takeaway. Yeah, so the answer is not technology. Technology is an enabler. Flexibility, prerequisite. Best practices. Sir gave an example of the Bombay Devarajan, right? And the point is whether it could have been scaled up, whether it could have been implemented others, that's also a question. The topic here is use these as toolkits. Pick and choose aspects that you come across in life in implementing solutions as toolkits. Gone are those days where you would say, I have a standard desktop procedure and I would like to execute based on the Hearthstone policy. Today the operations talk about, I used to, when I started my career 20 years back, I used to have the procurement policy running into 50 pages. And I was expected to mark it up and then implement everything based on the procurement policy. Today the policy is a frame. It doesn't talk about significant micro level of what action you have to take on a day-to-day basis. It gives you a frame. It says, in this context, drive the procurement processes and ensure that you are compliant with the customer processes. Now, how do you do it? Operations say we give it as a frame. So use these aspects when you go back into your corporate life. Yeah. So gone are those days where you will be granular level told what to do. You will need to have that art of letting go of some things, grabbing the same thing for a specific different problem that you come across. So look at topics and scenarios and best practices as a toolkit. That would be my inference of what you gave as an example. That example touched me because that's a very important element that we talked about.
Thank you. I think they were summarized it beautifully. In fact, he has done my job, so I will treat that as the summary of this discussion. In the interest of time, I want to cap any further questions. I hope some of the panelists are available after I give it. Unfortunately, I am not. I have been here since the morning, so I may have to rush. So those 2-3 minutes I have, unfortunately, I think I cannot keep my own promise. I am unable to keep my mouth shut because I think CSN touches all of us in a very, very personal way. So I have also an angle on that, in which again I wanted to use this question as an opportunity to share something with the students. See, your question started with cost, but not every supply chain has cost as a reason. Because I had friends in Air Force Logistics who gave me this figure that you supply kerosene to the soldier station of CSN in a helicopter. He says the per liter cost of logistics is 17 times the cost of kerosene. But the objective is not a cost that if it doesn't reach there, some guy will die. So there are supply chains which are commercial. All of us represent business supply chains or commercial supply chains. But there are many non-commercial supply chains where your key deliverable is not cost, it is something else. Or in your language of academics, if I say, for every supply chain there is something called an objective function, there is something called a constraint. So you have to be very, very clear what is your constraint, what is your objective function. You always want to optimize or rather maximize or minimize your objective function. But your constraint is invalid. So you have to frame the problem very clearly. If you flip your objective function and constraint, you get a very, very different solution. Okay, so in defense, basically your constraint is the material has to reach, irrespective of the cost. But that does not mean you will be inefficient in logistics. You will be as efficient as possible provided that material reaches in time. While in business, it could be the other way. I was once in a salt business where it was exactly the other way. That you cannot spend more than X amount of logistic, service level be done. That does not mean I don't give the best service level. But I give the best service level subject to I can't spend more than 1 rupee per kg on supply chain, on logistics, because the salt is retaining at 6 rupees a kg. So subject to that constraint, I give the best service level. But my constraint is very clear, 1 rupee per kg. So there are many non-profit supply chains and which have very different constraints, and then you have to figure out a solution around that constraint. So there is disaster supply chain, humanitarian supply chain, there is a PDS, public distribution system, whose objective it is to make a loss. Okay, because that is what subsidy means. So you have to be very, very clear, and you can frame it in your technical language saying, have a great clarity on what is your objective function, what is your constraint, then optimize or maximize or minimize your objective function, but be very clear on the constraint, and again, not going into too many technicality, it is a hard constraint or soft constraint, all that your professors will teach you, so we'll leave it at that. So with that, let me thank Deo especially for doing my job of summarizing the discussion beautifully, and all the panelists for, in some ways, confirming some suspicions I had in my mind, more or less. So it's great to really have such experienced and professional people confirming something which you have in your mind. And I think we had a wonderful discussion. Hats off to all the panelists. Thanks to all of you for being very patient.
We thank you for your valuable insights, and we are sure that the audience enjoyed today's roundtable conference. Now I would request Ravindra Baliga sir to present Pallavi ma'am with a token of gratitude. Sir to present Devarajan sir with the Now I will request Baba sir to present Balpreet sir.
This is matching. I knew that. I appreciate the sense of humor.
Now I will request Samarwal sir to present Deepak sir with a token of gratitude.
Please send a photo to each one of us. just one last thing I forgot to do. Let me thank Somaiya, all the volunteers for the legendary Somaiya hospitality. They have kept up the standard, if not increased it. So thanks a lot. And we enjoy your hospitality.
Actually, was one day I want to pose my question to God also. Now that for the past 2 years,
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. So sorry to disturb, but
yeah, sir.
मैडम इसको यूट्यूब पे देखना होगा तो कैसे लॉगिन करेंगे एक कागज पे लिख दो ना
That's my background. And I think past 7 years I ran a company for TMS, so hardcore transportation management. My background.
I would request everyone to please settle down.
मेरे पास कोई व्हाट्सएप नहीं है ये टूटा फूटा फोन है चलेगा इतनी बड़ी कॉपी निकाल रहे हो मैं दे दूँगा हाँ
Recording in progress.
खत्म नहीं हुआ पिक्चर भी बात है
Hello Shivam, can you hear us?
Yes, Iyengar. Am I audible?
Yeah. So moving on to the last segment of the day, which is Sanrachna. Sanrachna is a national level case study competition hosted by FORSE. 170 teams from different business schools registered, out of which 51 teams cleared the first round, which was a quiz round, and qualified to the case study round. We received 20 submissions, out of which we shortlisted the top 5 submissions. These 5 finalists presented their case in front of a panel of judges consisting of faculty members and industry experts. All the solutions that we received were excellent, but one of them stood out as the best. We present to you the winner for Sanrachna 2022, Team Combat from Symbiosis Institute of Operations Management, Nashik. So Team Combat, you can now start your presentation.
So thank you, Kedar. Good evening to all the dignitaries, delegates, and students who are in this conference. I am Shivam from Symbiosis Institute of Operations Management, Nashik. So I am part of Team Combat consisting of myself, Preeti Stawade, and Devarajan. The other 2 guys are having their college evaluation, so could not join this. So speaking about this case competition, Sanrachna, first round was being an online quiz that actually tested our knowledge on the latest happenings in the operations, then your decision-making skills, and also about the general awareness. Then the second round was about the case study competition, where we needed to provide the solutions to the business problem. So there was a case around an e-commerce company which was based in Mumbai. And that was that using a hyper-local business model, and it was competing with companies like Blinkit, Swiggy, then Instamart and Dunzo. So we were provided with all the required data, and there were around total 6 problem statements, which I will quickly walk through with the questions and also the solutions we provided to it. Hope my screen is visible.
Will this also come on the YouTube?
Yes, screen.
Yeah. So the first problem, question was based on transportation. We needed to design the optimal transportation route in such a way that the transportation cost is minimum, and also at the same time all the requirements of all the dark stores are fulfilled. And we needed to calculate the daily total transportation cost. So I will quickly go through what we had actually done. So this was the data which was actually given to us, like distance in kilometers between the inventory and dark stores, and what was the cost per kilometer, and the SKUs which are required for all the item categories. So we basically established the relationship between the inventory store, the dark stores, and the item categories. We calculated the cost per unit SKU, that is for distance between the inventory and dark stores. So we solved it using solver. So you can see the solution, and we had given the explanation in a detailed Excel sheet. So we had taken the constraint for capacity for all the inventory stores, that is, and for the 4,000 SKUs, and dark stores, which included 1,500 SKUs. Then moving on to the second problem statement, we had to schedule the delivery executors for the entire week in such a way that the total operational cost remains minimum. And we wanted to calculate how many delivery executors are there in each shift and what is the weekly total operational cost. So we were provided the data regarding that. So as you can see in the second sheet, yes. So we considered the objective functions, like we wanted to minimize the operational cost, considering the number of delivery executives, considering the shift, the 8 hours shift, and the 60 minutes, and the rate, which was 2.6. And the constraints were like the delivery executive scheduled were greater than the minimum delivery agent required to fulfill the order, and what is the weekly of in a particular day. And using the solver again, we calculated the schedule. Then the third problem statement was to suggest ways to improve the situation of increasing the number of drivers. I will just, yeah. So we had to calculate the backlog generated. So the assumption was that the company can fulfill only 4 deliveries at a time, whereas the actual demand for customers per hour is 6 deliveries. And the second assumption was that the order fulfillment rate is considered as constant, subject to all delivery executives are of same efficiency while performing the task. And also we had to provide the strategies and the ways to reduce the backlogs. So the basic strategies were designing the last mile delivery, then use of full truckload, then use of digital technologies like AI, virtual reality to rotate the inventories, and the use of RFID. Moving on to the next problem statement, we wanted the question was like, what will be company's positioning and marketing strategy to gain significant market share? So here we could leverage analytics to understand the businesses better. So using similar web analytics, we try to understand the market for big basket as well as just a minute, big basket as well as GeoMart. So we try to understand the local market as the company is operating in Mumbai. So focusing on the office areas as well as the residential areas. Then the customer demographics, what is the spending power of the customer, then varying choices as per the age group and the ethnicity, as majorly people living in Mumbai are Maharashtrian or Gujarati. So based on that, it can be strategized. Then customer behavior tracking, so studying the customer search patterns of the delivery platform, and then tracking the customer brand requirements for different products. Next problem statement was we wanted to create a design in order to increase the web traffic as well as increase the retention time. So for that we had to give these strategies as well as make a design on Canva. So we had provided the strategies to improve the web traffic, which basically include SEO optimization. So majorly when we want to increase the web traffic, we should not just focus on their design, but it's majorly on the your search engine optimization, where we select the target base client, then focus on the keywords which the clients are majorly using, estimate the target growth, and then optimize the page accordingly. Apart from that, one differentiation factor we gave is that providing a supply chain traceability, because majorly what we understand is that the competitors like Basket or Danzo, they don't provide the supply chain traceability as of now. So we tend to give that too. And in order to increase the redemption time, we strategize, like provide a strategy to have a live chat where we can get an immediate response and personalized support, and having good quality videos as well as high quality images which can engage the customers, and then adding different buttons. So this is what we designed for Quick Journey. So moving on to the last part, it was actually a guesstimate where we wanted to find what is the current customer base and also provide an estimate of what would be the growth in the next 6 months. So this is the guesstimate what we provided, taking into consideration all the factors like what are the like how much are the number of internet users, the number of households considering the number of people in each house, then dividing them, narrowing down based on the income, then offline shoppers as well as online shoppers. Post that, what is the frequency of purchase based on the income level, and we also considered that every time you visit the website, like whenever you want to purchase anything, at that time only you are visiting that website. So we considered that factor, and then post that, what is the market share of quick selling. Post that, we considered in order to estimate the growth in 6 months, we are considering the transition from offline to online as well as increasing the number of existing online shoppers. So, and we have also considered that we are leading the market share of few of the competitors, and the market share has increased from 5 to 8%. Based on that, you can see that the estimated total number of website per month visit per month is 5.86 to 8.9. So this was actually the end of the case study. Now speaking about our experience, like on behalf of my team, so this was one of the most challenging case studies that we faced. It not only required the supply chain and operations knowledge, but also strategic planning, marketing, and good analytics and analytical skills. And also all the questions which were asked were very relevant to the problems currently faced by the current e-commerce industry, and to be more specific, by the hyper-local delivery models. I'm sure that the bar set for this case study and the problem statement provided this year is very high, and the main motivation to participate in this case study was for two reasons. First one being the challenging problem statement, which actually tested our overall business acumen and supply chain knowledge and analytical skills. And the second important reason was that the winners were getting an opportunity to do CA certification, which was very important from our perspective. So overall, it was a very good experience for all of us. So thank you so much, guys, for providing this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today, and congratulations on winning Sanrachna case study competition. So you may now log off. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would now like to quote a line pertinent to our event. A good event never ends. It only pauses and keeps us waiting for the next one. With that, we would like to invite Professor Rahul Mule. He is an assistant professor in the area of production, operations and supply chain management at Somaiya Institute of Management with 24 years of combined experience in both industry and academics. We request you, Rahul sir, to propose the vote of thanks to the guests, participants, students and faculty.
Yeah, good evening everybody. Yeah, so it really has been a team effort and it's my job to thank all of us, right? So one by one I will express our thanks on behalf of the department. So we have had enriching lectures and discussions over the day, right from morning till now. And as this momentous day, where there has been a lot of learning, a lot of insights, first of all, we would be thankful, we are thankful and grateful to our keynote speaker, Mr. Manoj, and our chief guest for the day, I think he just left, Mr. Sandeep Chatterjee, for their starting insightful addresses and setting the pace for the event, for the day. Then we have we would like to thank also the corporate insight speaker, Mr. Dhaval Moghe, for taking out his valuable time and sharing the expertise with us. Next, we would like to thank the paper presenters, the 3 paper presenters who are with us, for all their innovative and discussion of their innovative ideas and budding ideas. We would also like to thank the audience during this for having an interaction session across in the morning as well as in the evening. We would like to thank the roundtable conference moderator, Mr. Deepak Jakate, and all the panel members which we had today afternoon, okay, Ms. Pallavi, Mr. Balpreet Singh, and Mr. Devarajan Iyengar, again for all their brilliant ideas and sharing their experience and talking to us about smart supply chains and which are the parameters that are important and where we can improve, and also answering some of the questions that came across. We would like to congratulate the winners of this event, of this Sanrachana case competition. So congratulations to you. Next, we would like to have special thanks to our director, Dr. Ramachandran sir, and our ex-director, Dr. Monica Khanna, who have always been a source of continuous motivation and inspiration. We would like to thank the PR team, public relations team, Mr. Arvind Dorai and all others, for helping us on social media and marketing and those kinds of activities. Next, we would like to appreciate the IT department for making all the connections and having the internet and all the backstage kind of support. Next, we would like to thank very much our department ACT, Professor Dr. Pramod Shetty sir, for all his guidance, and also all my faculty department colleagues for taking part in all this event. We would like to thank Professor Milind Gawai for helping us with the comparing and communication kind of activities. Professor Milind Gawai is a professor of communications here. Ms. Meenal and the Cosmos Group for hospitality and the food and those arrangements. The administrative staff at this institute for all the housekeeping and all the arrangements here. And as we come to the end, last but not the least, a big round of applause to all our students, dear students, student volunteers, and especially the FORSE committee members. Okay, so all the students, and especially the FORSE committee members, making this a big success. So primarily we know that the students, despite their busy schedules, they have been working for more months, a couple of months, and the end result of all that is what you see today. So it was a flawless execution of without any hindrances or all those kinds of things. And it is because of all that planning and all which went on backstage. Of course, we were not every time involved, but we did help them in some ways. But all the months of effort have culminated into this, this day, and you will realize that having any kind of an event like that requires a meticulous effort before, few months before at least. Let me have a big quiz. So a big round of applause to all our dear students and all the FORSE committee members. Thank you very much.
Now we will end the live session on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining in. And a quick announcement, we request everyone to move to the